I'm thankful to Alpha and I Square, and it gives me a lot of pleasure to share my experience. And so many kind words from Swarna. I'm not sure, I'm eligible for so many credentials, but anyway, that was my work experience, and I'm very happy to share. So the topic, we had a talk, me, Nachi, and Swarna, and then we were discussing what topic I have to present a webinar on, and then I proposed this lean tannery operations, a practical lean perspective, because I had a hands-on experience, and I would, like to share this in the Indian context as well. So when I was looking through the web and trying to understand also about lean in India and so on, and then I eventually bumped into this vision document by Defects, where they have given a roadmap of manufacturing 2035. So I would like to set the stage with a vision document 2035, where it says strengthening the manufacturing base of India through innovation-driven, clean, green, and lean process. So the lean process is obviously an important aspect in manufacturing if we have to go towards the vision for the future, for 2035, let's say, as they have envisaged in this document. So the question first I wanted to ask myself when I started with this journey, and then that is what I'm trying to share here, is what is lean all about? People talk about lean in many perspectives, in many different angles, and everyone has his own definition. Of course, every definition is valid in some sense, but the way I would like to put forth, and I would like to explain the concept of lean to the participants in this webinar, is to say that it's a mindset. It's the way we think. It's the way we look at manufacturing. It's the way we look at our daily life in the tannery. It's a way we want to do things as a part of our principles and as our management ideology and so on. So it's a mindset, basically. And then it strongly believes in 5 principles, which I will take you through in the next slides. It is principally and mainly about reducing 7 waste, as they call. Of course, people now increase the 7 waste to 8 waste and so on. But when it all started with lean manufacturing and Toyota production system, the principal waste were 7 wastes that were classified. And then it's a toolbox. When you look at lean as a toolbox, there are many solutions proposed. There are many tools proposed for how to implement lean and successfully get it through in the workplace. And one thing for sure is about lean is continuous improvement. It believes in saying is we are never perfect and we will never be perfect. So that is very important part of the lean principle, to say we need to continuously improve. We are never at our best at any point of time. Tomorrow has to be better than today. So when we talk about mindset, here traditionally in a manufacturing environment, people think product becomes cheaper when produced in series. You want to produce more and more of the same product so you can improve the economy of scale, you can reduce the cost, and then you can deliver faster. This is a traditional thinking. Whereas by lean thinking, we would say by focusing on maximum volume, the company loses profit, and by minimizing waste, loss, and focus on the right product and the right quantity at the right time is what gives value. It is also talks about a change of attitude. So I would not go through the full list, but I would take up a few, not to take too much of time. Traditionally, we would say, we have a problem in our workplace. But the way to think with a lean attitude is to say, we have an alternative to that problem. And we would think people are problems, more people, more problems. But actually in lean thinking, it's about people solve problems. And in traditional way, we would say, when we have a problem, who did it? Who is the culprit? Who is the guy who created the problem? However, in lean thinking, we would have to think what happened, how it happened, why it happened, and so on. And it also talks about we talk about problems when we talk in a traditional setting, but in a lean setting, we would say we implement solutions. And another part with respect to quality, we think in traditional way, defective elements have to be sorted out. When you have a reject, just remove the reject and send the good ones. But in the lean way of thinking, we should say quality is incorporated. In the sense, you should never aim for a defective quality. It should never be there, basically, if your process is right. So also, it's a mental barrier in most of us to say, we all want improvements, but we don't want changes. But that doesn't work that way. We need to be ready for changes in order to get improvements. We go to the next slide to say, talk about the 5 principles of lean. The first principle, which is a very powerful one in my opinion, the customer decides what creates value for him. And we as a manufacturers, it's our job to deliver value to the customer. It's not what we as manufacturers think, what the customer has to think as value. You can talk about color, you can talk about the article and so, but what does the customer really look for? He's looking for a shoe that gives, X amount of breathability and waterproofness and whatever. That is what he's looking for his product. And so what creates value for the customer has to be specified to start with. Then we need to identify value streams. What is value stream is basically the activities in the chain. We have 2 chains in any industry. One is the R&D or the concept to launch chain or the process parameters, where we start up new product by a concept and then we launch it. And the other one is what we call PO to delivery. When we talk about PO to delivery, for example, we need to understand what are those activities between these 2 that creates value, and then we need to identify them, and then we need to eliminate the non-value adding activities. And once we know which are the activities that are creating value, we need to establish a flow, meaning that from one activity to the next, it has to flow like a river. It should not have stops. It should not have a pause. It should flow. And the next one is about the end customer pull the product through production. Traditionally, and in many days, many a times, we find that we push the product, we push the lot from the beginning. I mean, from producer point of view, but actually the customer is the one who has to pull the production. Maybe he's looking for a bison color and we are busy making black. And so we say, you need bison, but you have black. This is not okay. The customer has to pull what he needs. And then, of course, as I said before, it's about striving for perfection through continuous improvement. This is a very powerful principle in my opinion. We should never ever think that we have reached perfection in anything what we do in our daily lives. Lean is all about increasing the value adding time or the value adding activities. It is a bit shocking when I first saw this during my lean training 10, 20, 15 years before, when they said in whatever operation you do in a tannery, they said only 5% of your time is spent on value addition to the product. And 35% of the time is necessary, but non-value adding. And 60% of the time is a pure waste. I couldn't digest it. But once you go into details, when you go and identify each activity, there is truth in it, honestly. How to add more value in a tannery? It's $1 million question? No, actually not. We can create value in a tannery, as I said, perfection, right? Even we think today we have achieved a certain level of perfection, we can still add value to the tannery. How we do that is by getting into the details. As they say, devil is in the details. Once you go into the details, everything pops out. When you look at the superficial way, things seems to be working okay, everything seems to be fine, unless you identify a problem or you get a stumbling block. So devil is in the details. And value is added by eliminating waste. So we are talking about waste and waste. What are those wastes? As I mentioned before, there are 7 wastes, and let's go through and find out how to eliminate each one of them in the tannery setting, basically. The first and foremost thing before we want to eliminate waste in our processes is we need to learn to see waste. The mentor for me who taught me lean, he said, first change your glass. He said, you need to wear a lean glass if you want to see the waste. If you are in your traditional way of thinking, you would never find what is in the shop floor, and you will never identify a waste. So learn to see waste. We need to go through the processes in detail, to the level of saying, what is the cycle time of the process? What is the changeover time of the process? How is the scrapping rate? How is the manpower handling it? What activity the manpower is doing, and so on. We need to look at the inventories. You know, inventory is a time bomb, basically, and we all cover our daily problems in the manufacturing industry by having quite a lot of inventory. So we need to look at the inventory by finished product, if it's a buffer stock, semi-product, work in progress, raw material, and so forth. And also information flow. Many a times we ignore this information flow. We think in a tannery we add value by taking a raw material into finished leather, but the customer is also looking at our information flow, like forecast versus order, monthly planning, weekly planning, daily planning, what information we give to him about the order status, where is his leather, when he will be due to get, and so on. We sometimes ignore this information flow, but it's also important and to learn to see waste in the information flow as well. The next is about, we call it value stream mapping. Once you identify, for example, a raw material, let's say wet blue to finished leather, you draw the different steps involved, and then we find out how many minutes it takes to do the process on a single side or hide, and then how many minutes the leather is waiting before it is going to the next step, and so on. Of course, I'm not going to go to the detail of what is value stream mapping in this webinar, but when we are interested, we have a lot of tools available in the net to find out what is value stream mapping and how to do a good value stream mapping. And then we need to identify and mark the waste using the definitions of waste, which I will show you in the next slides. And then we need to make a future picture and make an action plan for eliminating each of these waste. It looks like rocket science, but actually not. It is very, very straightforward when we get into the details and we move. And we all being experts in our field, we can easily, when we look through the lean glass, we can find out which is the activity that creates value for the product and which are the activities that is pure waste. Now we talk about the 7 wastes. The 7 wastes are listed as overproduction. I will in the next slides go a little bit deeper in terms of each of the wastes. So now I just go through the 7 wastes. Many of you might be knowing, I'm sure, because lean is quite popular for some time. But I'm just sharing my experience on my workplace in the past years. The second waste is waiting time, unnecessary movement, unnecessary processes, inventories, unnecessary transport, and defects and rejects. These are considered the 7 ways, or muda as they call in Japanese language, which needs to be eliminated in any manufacturing setting. So now we come to the first waste, elimination of overproduction. You know, many a times, this is my favorite topic about yield loss and rejects. As a tanner, I always used to, or as a production manager, I always used to think I need to put X amount of extra wet blue to cover my yield loss and reject so that I can deliver on time in full to my customer. But then in that process, how you estimate your yield loss and reject without knowing exactly what should be the waste of each article, then we end up in producing extra than what is necessary. So we need to understand what is the yield loss and rejects for every single article by standardized work. And we have seen a lot of times the retanning department and the finishing department would act in silos, meaning that retanning would keep on producing what they think they have chemicals for, wet blue for, and which is the process that they can give the daily target and so on. whereas the customer would have asked something different, and probably the finishing department is not able to take everything on a daily basis, what the returning has turned out, because probably they have a bottleneck. They have a bottleneck of the oil roller coater, or for example, a spray machine or a specialty coating machine and so on. So by this way, it is also overproduction. Of course, one day, whatever returning has produced would go out of the tannery as a finished leather, but then does it take the flow? It doesn't if it doesn't flow. So next one is about producing without customer orders. Of course, it is a topic which is a bit complex, because people do produce based on forecast and based on their instinct to say what will be in demand. In some of the tanneries, I have seen that producing black color in well ahead of the customer demand. But principally speaking, without customer orders, we need to understand the risk, and it is an overproduction. And we need to produce based on priority of delivery to multiple customers. I have seen scenarios where there are multiple customers. One customer asks for a color rust or a bison or a cognac, a difficult cognac, which is taking a long time. And another customer is asking for black in order to optimize our production on a daily basis, which we think is optimization, actually not. We tend to make a lot of black leather, but then one customer is waiting and the other one is overfed. And probably the guy who is overfed will not take the leather that you have produced ahead of time. So this is also a part of overproduction. So we need to understand overproduction is a waste, and the right way is to produce just in time, the right quantity, and in full every single day. Then we talk about elimination of waste on processes. Process is a complicated term. Everybody think, and we all think as technicians, all the process that we do on a piece of leather is important. Of course it is important, but are we doing it in a standard way every single day on every single batch is the question we need to ask ourselves. I would suggest, and that's what we do, is to have a standard techno file for each article, which is very clearly specifying the wet glue to be used, the retanning and finishing process, which is frozen. After you make a trial, you got the desired result, you freeze the process, and also you have to freeze the process mechanical operations and machine settings. Otherwise, you would be doing endless different processes for each single batch, and you will not have consistency of the product, and we end up making an repair process or an alternate process to correct the mistakes or to undo the problems that we have created and so on, which really is a waste. Specific to the wet glue, I have found that raw hides, when we are able to classify based on the weight, helps to standardize the process. We used to classify the raw hide based on the kilo, 7 to 14, 14 to 20, 21 kgs, 21, 28, and so on. And then each of these weight range used to have a very clear process definition and a process about how many hours in soaking, liming, and so on. And then we ensured this way we can have a uniform penetration, and the timing of the pH getting through, and everything was quite standardized in this way. This is one of the examples, right? And then standardization of crust for group of finished leathers. I remember those days when we used to have single retanning process and single crust for every single article every single customer wanted. And that used to really, clog the system. And then we used to have endless crust with endless rejects of different types and colors and so on. Then we were going in towards standardization of crust. You identify the crust as a semi-chrome, softy, full wedge, whatever the type you want, a waterproof crust for certain thickness levels and so on. And then once you have a customer order, you basically look into which crust base I would use in the best way to get this finished product. It means you standardize your crust and you try to make a variety of finished leather types. In this way, you eliminate a lot of waste in terms of overproduction or rejects or yield loss and so on. And also standardization of chemicals leading to standard process. Chemicals, it's another area where we have a queue for every single problem. You can have endless chemicals to solve each and every hide's problem. but that's not going to help as a tanner to have a standardized process. So I would recommend that we have a very clear standardization of chemicals that you want to work with in a consistent way. Next, as I said, this is the inventory time bomb, I would say. We do see in a tannery wet blue non-moving for quite a long time because we bought it because the price was cheaper. And then at the end of the day, we took all the best selections out of it. And then the lower selections are standing there forever, for example. Then what I would think is we need to remove the non-moving wet blue from the system somehow as and or sell it off if that is not part of your core product range, the wet blue that you were carrying in stock for long. And many a times we find that it is valued at full price, and then suddenly at the end of the year, or when you're making a monthly stock taking, then you find the value of the wet blue is at full price, whereas the value of the wet blue that you carry after having taken all the best one is very low. So it is better to devalue as it ages, or find a way to sell it off if you're not using. So it is very important to have an age for each and every stock that you carry. Same with chemicals. We bought this chemical for a reason, that chemical for a reason, but then however it is standing there forever, then we need to have a clear aging information, either use it or dispose it off, because that's not an asset, it's a liability basically. Then the next one is about the rejections in crust and finish leather. My opinion, because I say opinion because it is not 100% as of now possible, we should have almost zero. If your process is standard and you're not overproducing, there should be no rejects. It should all go in because you chose the right standard wet blue, you chose the right standard process, you chose the right standard chemicals. How come you will have rejects? Normally you should not, but of course I do understand the differences, and you might have reject, but it should be almost zero, I would say. And then when you do have a reject, let it not pile in the shop floor. We have seen tanneries there where the reject leather is together with the good leather, and you lose sight of what you have on the shop floor. We should immediately find a way to reuse it, and my suggestion would be to just move it away from the shop floor. The shop floor should never have any inventory except all good work in progress. And the last one, but not the least, is about the finished goods inventory. It's a time bomb, as we have seen many a times. We produce based on a stock forecast. We expect a customer to buy more of the product that you were producing and we were selling a long time, and suddenly he's not buying anymore, and then you have a stock, and then you start to find how to sell it. You keep it in the same full book value for a long time. After 6 months, 1 year, you find it is selling at half the price, and then your P&L is going out of control. So then basically it is important that we first don't create a finished good inventory, but then when we have, it is better to value it in the right way, devalue it as it ages, and find a way to sell it off. When it comes to inventory, inventory is a good thing to cover all the problems. That's how I see it. We have a lot of problems when in our daily life in a manufacturing environment. We have quality problems, we have supplier issues, we have employee availability, communication problem, machine downtime. How we think we are getting rid out of it is by basically increasing your inventory level. When the inventory is so high, there is something to do every day, and the problems are lying low, and we think we are smoothly flowing on the top. But actually, it's not the truth. It is actually the problems are lying low, and one day it's going to bite us back. So we need to reduce the safety factor of inventory, and we need to let each of the problems, each of the rocks that are under the water level to come up and bite us every day. So when it bites us, we have to find a solution for it, and then we need to reduce the inventory much further. So keep the minimal inventory is very, very important to have a smooth flow. The next waste, as we talk about, is transport. Transportation, it can be within the factory as well. We move from rawhide to finished goods stores in a different in different places, in a different factories, in a different way. But we need to relook at it, and we need to have a layout that is very optimal, avoiding unnecessary movement. And we should always look at connecting operations. What I mean by connecting operations, for example, you can connect retanning, setting, vacuum, and drying in one flow. For example, when there is stock in vacuum or drying or setting, stop the retanning. You don't need to run retanning if the next operations are not able to take the flow. Same way, we can connect the spray machines to a roller coater, for example, and then find a lane or make a lane for each of the product group. Based on the capacity, we can also create different lanes for oil types, pigmented, aniline, milled, etc. So it is like creating a road or a path for each individual leather type or a product group. In this way, we will minimize the transport from one operation to another and unnecessarily multiple movements between the operations. Then is the waste of waiting time. We do see in our daily life where the operators are waiting for technicians, the operators are waiting on a spray machine for a color change or for a chemical change. We wait for maintenance team to attend to problems. Why do we maintenance team we wait to attend to problems? Because we probably did not have a clear preventive and scheduled maintenance. When it comes about preventive maintenance, I would like to share a bit of my experience. When we started a tannery in Sherman, and then, hello Nachi, is that okay? Am I okay?
Yeah, you are okay, fine.
Okay. So when we talk about preventive maintenance, in the beginning, we had a lot of argument between the production team and the maintenance team as to how to schedule a preventive maintenance. Of course, the production team said, do it at the middle of the night when the two shifts are done. And the maintenance team would do it, but they said this is not the right way. Then when we looked into it, and then we said, no, we are going to do a preventive maintenance for each of the machines in a scheduled way during working time. So we will stop the machine, for example, a staking machine, for 1 hour of preventive maintenance, which had a clear list of points that would have to be looked into. And many a times a production manager would say, when a machine is under preventive maintenance, he would take the operator and he would put it in another machine. But we said, no, that's not happening. The preventive maintenance has to happen by the production team and the maintenance team together. In that way, the operator of the machine also learned what problems he is causing to the machine on a daily basis and what are the things that need to be done in order to keep the machine in working condition every day. For example, when I talk about the same staking machine, the operator on the first day when we opened the machine was so much surprised that there's so much of trimmings and dirt inside it. And then the next time he would think before he feeds the leather to feed it in the right way, or instead to avoid the tearing, or do whatever the necessary things to ensure that the machine doesn't accumulate dirt, for example. And he also participated in the lubrication program on a daily way and so on. So it gives a very, very, very good foundation for the preventive maintenance system. And we do often see in a tannery setting, we have to wait for a plate change or a roller change. We made some Kaizen events of how much time it takes to change a plate from the existing running hot plate to a new plate and so on. And then we could also reduce a lot of waiting time if we plan it well and if we do it correctly. And setting out waiting for unloading drums, for example, as I said, could be eliminated by combining the process or joining the process one-to-one. The next waste is about defects, rejects, and yield loss. We need to have a standardized process, as I said, and a standardized work for each operation of each type and color, which would avoid or minimize the defects, rejects, and yield loss. Actually, we always talk about yield loss. I think in our context, we need to talk about yield gain. By wetting back of a wet glue before splitting, increase yield by wet toggle, for example. Wet toggle is one of my very favorite topics when I came to India to join back after 6-8 years ago. And then I found maybe many other tanneries where the people are participating here are using it, but we didn't find there are so many that use wet toggle. We implemented wet toggling for many leather types, including linings and sock linings and milled articles and so on. And we could easily see a yield gain of 8 to 10 to 12% on many different articles. So we have this traditional mindset, or at least I have, or I had before, to say that every leather will have a yield loss. But actually, I think we should start to talk about yield gain for each leather type. And our experience also, we worked a lot on the drying technology at the right temperature and humidity. We used to say we need to have the right humidity and the right temperature. We used to dry hides at 37 degrees it is like a tunnel with like an air conditioning effect, which sucks out humidity and keeps a constant temperature of 37 to 39 degrees, which would dry the leathers in 7 hours time. That's what we were able to get it. And we saw that this gives a good effect on yield as well. This is going into the toolbox for the way we have identified this, or they have the lean experts have put up the toolbox is to connect the 5 principles that we talked about, the 7 ways, and the list of tools that we could use in order to eliminate each one of those ways and to stand with the principle, the 5 principles. I'm not going into detail here again, and there are a lot of literature available on each one of these tools, and I'm sure we can give it a try in our own way, and we can add value to the production. In a conclusion, I would say, or in a way, how to put all what I have put forth in the past 15-20 minutes is to look at the lean factory in a way that you have a foundation at the bottom, which is the stability of the process. And the stability of the process is through machines, materials, team members, and methods. If you need a stability of the process, for sure, you need to have a standardized work and is a prerequisite to have a stability of the process. And then you can build on this foundation to have just in time, and to say Jidoka is actually when you have an abnormal quality problem in any operation, just stop it. And then the objectives for any lean factory or any factory that we would want to achieve is for sure the highest quality, the lowest cost, and the shortest lead time. I think this is everybody's wish. And the way is by having the fundamentals of lean that we will make it to work for us in the way that we discussed before. And as I said, the 5th principle is the most powerful one with respect to all the 5, because it says strive for perfection through continuous improvement. It is never good enough. If we are good, we need to go to great. If we are good today, we need to be better tomorrow, and so on. So that is the main principle that strives, or that helps us keeping on improving every single day. And to get a continuous improvement in our daily life, we can have a culture called Kaizen. Kaizen is basically small improvements every day as a natural part of our work. It don't need to be a huge change, a dramatic change, but it can be a small improvement in every single day. I would like to go a little bit detail in this Kaizen, because I believe this is a very powerful tool on our daily life. It involves everyone. It involves the managers, it involves the operators, it involves the technicians, and together we need to make the improvements. The basic principles are, first of all, forget your normal preconceived ideas. Whatever we have done so far is good, but it is not good enough. So let's forget the process. Let's forget the ideas as we have so far. And then the second one is to focus on how it is possible, rather why it is not possible. When we did lean implementation in our tanneries, for sure, me was one of the first people when I would have questioned, but then when I learned about it, I believed, but it was my job to make other people believe, and this was not easy. So we need to focus on how it is possible rather than why it is not possible. For sure, we can list out 100 things to say why it would not be possible, but I think we should never give up, and we should say how it is possible. We should not make excuses, contribute to questioning the current methods. We need to question whatever we do today in the right sense, of course. And this is a bit contrary, right? One side we say we strive for perfection, but here it says do not seek for perfection, do things at once. What I mean by this, or what they mean by this, is to say, when you do a Kaizen activity, don't look for the most perfect state on the first day, on the first hour. Whatever you think is better than the present setup, you just implement it and get a little bit of improvement. That gives the energy to continuously improve, and definitely we would go for perfection. So when it says do not seek perfection, it is saying do not seek perfection in the short term, but do things at once. In the long term, of course, you will keep getting perfect. If you make a mistake, correct it. There's nothing wrong in making mistakes as long as we learn and we never repeat the mistake again. And whenever we do new projects, new programs, it's about how much money we want to spend. Actually, that's not the point. We need to use our creativity. And then find the reasons or find the problems, reason for the problems by asking why 5 times. I think many of us would already know the 5 why principle. When you have a problem, ask 5 times why, and then find how you solve each one of those whys. And at the end of the chain, you will find there is a systemic change or a standard procedure or a standardized process that you need to put in place in order for the problem to never repeat again. And there are no limits. There are literally no limits to how many Kaizen ideas we can implement in any factory, of course, in a tannery too. And then people, when we talk about people, people are always liability to a certain extent. Yes, that can be understood. But then who we have inside our factory, the people are very, very important. Why? Because they have their own special capabilities, and one is not the same than the other. And each one of them has special capabilities and capacities. People who do the actual work know the best. I do believe the operator who is making a roller coater operation or a spray operation or any operation in a tannery knows how to do that job the best possible way, even better than a technician, even better than a manager, I would say, because he's doing single minute every single day, the same operation on that machine, and he is an expert on that machine. All employees have got a lot of ideas on how to improve a certain process or area. And every small idea is important. Important to transform into a lean-driven company, people are important to have this effect, to be a lean-driven company. Kaizen in practice, it is just how you get your Kaizen events, or how do you identify problems. You look through the 7 ways that we talked about in a factory setting. You analyze it, you get suggestions, and you get ideas. Then you jot them down, make Kaizen events, and then you have to implement in a plan, do, check and act cycle. Plan, do, check and act, most of us know this is a continuous improvement cycle. We have to plan an activity, implement it by doing it, check if that activity has given the necessary improvements in that process, and then you act. It means you replan, and this cycle goes on forever. And this is the way that we keep improving on our daily lives. Kaizen assignment, for example, I just try to list down an example here. We can choose a particular problem that you have in a daily working life, spend 5 minutes on it, think how you could solve the problem, come out with ideas and suggestions. How would it work in daily working life? Write it on a flip, present your flip, and go and do it. That is a way we can implement a Kaizen assignment in a daily way. When it comes to KPIs are very important to have an understanding of where we are heading to. Some of the big 5 KPIs that we work with are delivery performance. We call it on time in full. On time in full meaning you deliver that quantity in full amount, not a shortage of amount. Not that you say, we have 3,400 square feet, the 100 square feet will come 10 days later. No, on time in full. It has to be 95% above. Lead time. Today, if you are making leather in 7 days or 10 days, or it used to be 12 to 14 days, we need to think that we need to reduce it by 50%. Quality risk, the amount of rejects, the risk that the amount of waste, the amount of yield loss, it should reduce by 50%. Efficiency. By efficiency, we talk here overall equipment efficiency. This is a factor of how many sides you can you can work in a minute if you are just doing without any stoppage, multiplied by the effective uptime of the machine, multiplied by the speed of the operator. Is he able to feed exactly the number of sites that has to be on an every single minute basis? That would give overall equipment efficiency, and we can definitely think we need to improve it by 30%. And innovation, 3 ideas per employee annually. Every single employee should contribute to the success of the company, and then we need to value their ideas, and then we can keep a track of what we do in a small way. Innovation is not something like we change the world around. A simple idea to improve on any of this delivery performance, lead time, or quality is definitely an idea, and that has to be taken in a right positive sense. So that brings to the end of what I had put together for this webinar. As I said, the TIFAC roadmap had also given me a vision to set the stage for this lean webinar that I tried to put it up together. But when I see this document, it's a powerful document. We can go through it in the web for sure, and then it lists down various vision on different aspects of environment, product, processing, and raw material. Raw material is never going to be a free flow. It is going to have limitations as the demand is going to be there. How do you utilize your raw material in the best way? How do you do processing in the best way? These are the aspects that would reduce the cost per unit, and that is the reason would be the reason that we could stay competitive against the world competition, wherever it is from, wherever it is coming from in a today global setting. With those slides, I come to the end of my presentation. I wish all is well, and thank you. And please do remember, plan, do, check, and act. We need to do in a daily way. For sure, we can overcome whatever difficulties we are in today, and we can definitely add value to where we are, and definitely we have a wonderful future. Thank you very much.